kids today with your AAAs and your Minecrafts and your tablets that can nuke the gaming world. Back in my earlier days, all I had was a Genesis. It had 6 games in one pack. And darn Skippy, it was fun. Hey. Okay, enough of the bad old man impression. That was embarrassing. But yeah, I have a Genesis cartridge called 6-Pack. And though it came with 6 games, I only really played 2. Sonic the Hedgehog, and the number 13 spot on this list. Golden Axe. This is definitely one of those more interesting hack and slashes that I've played. The story's pretty simple, maybe even a little D&D-like when you think about it, seeing how it's a medieval setting. The main antagonist is somebody called Death Adder, who I can only assume has a backstory of being Mr. Reaper's personal soul accountant or something like that. Anyways, he quit that job to try to take over the kingdom of your land, and guess what? He killed at least one family member of each main protagonist. What a great guy! So you're off to the castle to try to stop Death Adder, all while engaging in classic Genesis hacking slashing side-scrolling adventure. I must say the way you mostly attack is oddly strategic. Depending on the distance between you and the enemy you're attacking, seems to execute a very specific type of attack. For instance, if you're really close, you'll bash him over the head with your handle, even pick him up and throw him. I still don't know how that works. But of course I figured this out long after I decided to use the dominant strategy of jump and slash everything! Oh, and ramming people. Oh, did I talk about the magic yet? It's awesome! Depending on which character you selected, depends on a different type of magic that you use. For instance, the dwarf can use lightning, He-Man can use explosions, and the girl can use a freaking dragon? Oh, yeah, that's fair! Speaking of dragons, you can use some as vehicles of some kind, but they're kinda useless. All in all, Golden Axe is a very fun game, but I gotta comment on this. It's hard. It's so hard. Especially when you get to the— oh god, no, not the skeletons! Not the skeletons, they're so cheap! Ah! Crap! No! Stop! Oh, what? The final boss is skeletons?! No!
Test 1, 2. Sega.
Are you bored of just reading comics? Ever wanted to physically enter a comic book and fight off your own deadly creations, travelling from page to page to ultimately destroy an even greater evil to return to the real world a hero? No? Well, now you can. Comix Zone. The game managed to combine the formula of a really enticing 2D beat-em-up game like Streets of Rage 2 and Street Fighter with an original comic book style idea, and it worked really well. Not many other games back in the Genesis times could successfully unify 2 completely different genres into one game. That's why I think Comix Zone is so special. The story's a little vague, but it goes something like this. Sketch Turner, a comic book creator, is working on his latest creation called Comix Zone, based on his weird dreams and nightmares, when his comic book is suddenly struck by lightning, causing the villain of the comic, known as Mortis, to come to life, trapping him inside his own comic so he can take over the real world. We are then introduced to Elisa Cyan, acting as your guide throughout the game. She refers to Sketch as the Chosen One, telling him that he must save the post-apocalyptic world Mortis has created. The story isn't really important though, because it's the gameplay that counts. The whole game is set up like a comic book, to make you believe that you're not only playing a fighting game, you're actually in control of the comic itself. Mortis is always drawing in deadly creatures to destroy Sketch, and let me just say, Sketch doesn't really take too kindly to this, or anything in the game for that matter. Seriously, when I was younger, my mum said that the game was a bad influence because of the way the AIs were so unsociable.
Oh, man.
Well, at least they don't Eggman the dialogue, and I think everybody knows what I mean by that.
Get a load of this! Get a load of this!
Something I really like about the gameplay is that when you're playing, you're kind of tearing through the comic book, literally. Instead of just one level being one comic panel, you're jumping from panel to panel all the time, even letting you choose your own way sometimes, so you never get bored of seeing the same background behind you. Each level is a page of the comic book, with 6 pages overall, and a boss battle for each one, including the final boss, Mortis. You can find power-ups in hidden areas, but you don't come across them often, so use them wisely or you'll end up like this. The game isn't that long, but it's extremely difficult if you don't know what you're doing, which brings me to the 3 things not to do when playing Comix Zone. Number 1, don't try to attack an enemy when you're near the edge of a platform. If you die, you go straight back to the beginning. Number 2, don't punch all the objects to find items. Doing so will decrease your health. Number 3, don't forget about your rat. He'll help you to find hidden bombs to use against crates blocking your way, so you don't have to use half your health punching them to destroy them. One more thing I should mention is the music. It's pretty damn good. As soon as you're greeted by the menu screen music, you know what will follow won't be a disappointment. So with funny and enticing gameplay, despite the occasional rage quit moments, an appealing comic book feel mixed with a classic beat-em-up style, Comix Zone is definitely a game worth playing. Just make sure you don't order it from Japan.
There's no question. Pirates are awesome. But ninjas are freaking amazing.
Not sure I deserve that.
The likes of Ryu Hayabusa and Strider alone have proven that fact. But I think there's another ninja that hasn't been given enough credit and perhaps slightly overshadowed, no pun intended, by other great video game ninjas. Joe Musashi and more relevant to this countdown, Shinobi 3 Return of the Ninja Master are both quite awesome. Story-wise, well, in the arcade, Joe saved kids. Better than Michael did, I'll tell you that.
Oh! I'm sorry, is your name Hostess? Because that was a zinger!
The story seems non-existent. There's bad guys. Kick their ass. You and Joe Musashi do just that. You throw kunai, use power-ups, and slice enemies left and right. I really did enjoy my playthrough of this game, simply because the difficulty of this game is just right. It starts off easy, and then difficulty goes up as you play and learn. Then the last stage kicks you in the nuts like a final stage should. Unlike Ninja Gaiden that does that starting off at level 1. But the reason Joe is a badass is because of the boss fights. Joe fights on freaking surfboards, he fights on falling rocks against a man-bird, hell, he even takes down Mechagodzilla. Freaking Mechagodzilla!
That is awesome!
After the awesome final boss fight with Cyber Ninja here, you have a credit sequence similar to that of Mega Man X. Then you ride off into sunset like a boss! What more is there to say? Joe Musashi and Shinobi 3 are both more than deserving beyond this list of classics.
Have you ever noticed that square on the bottom left corner of a game case? That box that let people know how age appropriate it is? That box that didn't let you play the M-rated games you wanted in your youth? Where did it come from? Well, look no further than the fighting game that started the rating system, Mortal Kombat!
Test your might. Test your might. Test your might. Test your might.
Oh my god, I love this game. Mortal Kombat is easily one of the many games that define the fighting genre. The premise is very simple. Defeat enemy after enemy on your way to fight the villain and triumph overall. Along the way, you may be faced with the iconic Test Your Might stages that also make this game unique. As with any fighting game, it is very simple to just pick up and play, though the special moves require either some research or a lot of time to figure them out yourself. They allow you to do all kinds of neat tricks. Freeze your opponent in midair? Why not? Throw a Hadouken? Yeah, sure. And when the match is over, you get the chance for the gory fatalities. Try and tell me it's not satisfying to make their heads explode. And for your successful move, you can make pools of blood fall down. The gore in this game is so iconic that it's inspired several other fighting games that tried to imitate it. Mostly sucky ones. This game also introduced endurance battles to the fighting game franchise, as well as Goro as one of the cheapest fighting game bosses of all time. Ugh! What? it! This game also brought us the ever-elusive Reptile, who can only be fought under very specific circumstances, and another hidden character can be fought under even more specific circumstances. I myself don't know who this character is. This game has so many extras, you're guaranteed to spend hours on this game trying to find everything the game has to offer. These are just a few of the reasons why Mortal Kombat is one of my favorite fighting game franchises of all time. If you like a good fighting game, you don't have to look any further than this. Go to this game! Buy it now!
One year after the battle, the city that had been plagued with crime and violence. Okay, I'm not gonna do this whole voice narrator thing. Everybody, Streets of Rage 2. Now this is what you call a classic beat 'em up. Streets of Rage 2 took everything that made the first game great and expanded upon it, as well as fixing all the problems that the first one had. The story in this game is that Mr. X, the main villain in the first game, wants revenge on you for defeating him, so he kidnaps your friend Adam, and you need to go rescue him. You can play as 4 different characters: Max, Axel, Blaze, and Skate. Yeah, I know, the last guy is actually called Skate because he wears rollerblades, I guess. Real creative, guys. I always chose Max just because he was the most powerful, and it doesn't really matter that you move like a frickin' tank when you're twice the size of most of the enemies that you're fighting. Now believe it or not, this game can get really weird, like finding a secret elevator in the baseball stadium, fighting whatever the hell this is supposed to be, or battling against ninjas on a pirate ship flying over the city. What? Now the music and the visuals are also something I would like to make note of, because they're both great. The backgrounds always show you a detailed view of wherever the hell you seem to be going, and music perfectly fits the mood. Overall, this game was fun, creative, and psychedelic, and I loved every minute of it.
It's pretty much indisputable that ninjas are freaking cool. So how about we talk about one of the most badass ninjas that graced the Genesis library? Let's talk about Strider. This adaptation of the original arcade game was widely cherished and anticipated by arcade goers. Strider was a definitive title to have. The game was a complete revelation with its constant action and detailed characters, vibrant colors and stirring music. It's no wonder it's so revered among Genesis fans. Technically, this game adaptation isn't perfect, but then again, who the hell cares? Our faces were too busy being melted with its sheer awesomeness. I mean, look at me! I'm a ninja! I'm going about killing cyborgs and all sorts of shit! I'm a showing them bastards! Showing, baby! Strider as a game came to revolutionize action games. Nowadays, we have games with intense action moments, memorable for their sheer intensity and/or their ridiculousness. And who do you think we have to thank for that? That's right, this little gem right here. Strider was one of the first games to implement this mechanic. If you play it, you get vibes from Devil May Cry, from Bayonetta, from Metal Gear Rising, from Mad World, from a multitude of other titles like these. It all goes back to fighting cyborgs on dinosaurs' backs, making death-defying leaps, and being spun around by mechanical core boss. And you made it all happen, not some fancy schmancy cutscene. It was all you and your skills that got you through the day and through impossible odds. And it felt awesome. Nice.
It's one of gaming's oldest and most influential franchises. While it premiered on the NES back in 1986, the series' first outing on a Sega console has not been forgotten. taking the number 7 spot, we have Castlevania Bloodlines. Castlevania Bloodlines, or Castlevania The New Generation if you're in Europe, is the first in the franchise to not have a Belmont as a playable character. Instead, we have a choice between John Morse as the wielder of the Vampire Killer and Eric Lecard, gaming's 9th best spearman. Side note, the two have their own strengths and weaknesses in how they deal with the forces of evil, so there's a nice bit of replay value in playing the game through with both of them. Now, the two things that make this game stand out the most.
Rest in pieces.
Holy crap, that dude got mulched! And this got a general audiences? Well, when you consider that this was the Sega Genesis, gore's not too surprising. As I was saying, the next two things that stand out to me is the game's graphics and music composition. The game has some fantastic graphics. Those guys at Konami got the Mega Drive to pull things off other developers would have thought impossible for the system. Scaling, rotation, hell, there's quite a bit of destructible environments in there too. These make for some Dan-fine set pieces. Last but not least, we have the game's soundtrack. This was Yamane Michiru's first time on the franchise, and she put her best foot forward. This game would set her standing firmly within the Castlevania franchise for the rest of the decade and then some. So I think that's the best I can sum it up. The polished Castlevania gameplay and music plus outstanding graphics equals the number 7 spot. Or is it polished Castlevania gameplay plus music, outstanding graphics squared? Or do you cube the gameplay?
Dude, fuck math. Just use all of it.
What the fuck?
Next entry! Ow!